got one for you about believing in something. You might sit down there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will call our meeting to order tonight of the Osceola County School Board. I want to thank everybody for being here. Tonight we will have an invocation led by Pastor Rick Fichter. Oh, there he is in the back. Don't come up just yet, because I'm going to do something a little different this evening. Our pledge of allegiance will be led by Mr. Ken DeBoard. Our national anthem, we've got some students getting prepared from OXA, our School of the Arts. It's a brass quintet. Our mission statement will be read by Miss Valerie Martinez. Translation services by Miss Belinda Reyes. I'm going to ask, since it is September 11th, I put together a little something I'd like to read, and before we stand, I'd like to read that to you. Today we mourn the loss of many American lives 17 years ago, a day that also signifies the beginning of a fight that may truly never end. As we remember the acts of evil that occurred that day, we are also reminded that many heroic acts took place as well. We saw the best and worst in people. New York City police officers and firefighters ran into burning buildings when civilians were running out. They believed in their duty, and they sacrificed everything. The passengers of Flight 93 did not choose to stay knelt in the back of a plane, but they believed they could change the course of that plane, sacrificing everything to alter the course of history. And I'll take this moment to please ask you to silence your cell phones. Yeah, that's fine. So there are many stories of American bravery that we could share all evening, like Wallace Crowther, the man in the red bandana that most of you may have heard about, and folks at the Pentagon as well, all believing that they needed to do something to help and sacrificing everything to do so. I share this with you because it is important we remember what made America great and best honor those who sacrificed for us, being willing to sacrifice for our community and others. We will continue to work on a more perfect union, and each and every day that the sun rises on Americans living in freedom, terrorism loses and liberty wins. Board, at this time, if there's no objections, I'm going to ask everybody to stand, but as Mr. Rick comes to the podium, I ask that we just have a moment of silence to remember the events on September 11, 2001. Mr. Fichter.
And Lord, in this moment of remembrance, we stop and we acknowledge you, Lord, the Prince of Peace. And together we unite our hearts and we call on you and we thank you for this great nation. As Ricky said, the peace we have, that we can worship in freedom and live in freedom. And Lord, we just remember all those who've given their lives for that. And Lord, we also tonight come together and we ask you, Lord, to bring your continued protection over this county and over our school system and over every man and woman who serves in whatever capacity to serve and educate our kids. Lord, we pray tonight for the school board members, each one, that you will give incredible wisdom and unity. We pray for every family that's here and every need that's present. Pray for all the teachers, Lord, and their families. And we pray that you will encourage them and strengthen them. And for each of our kids, that you will help them to learn better, grow better, and that all of us together can look to you. And we trust you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Fichter from the Connection Church, by the way, I forgot to give you that shout out. Please remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance and our national anthem. Mr. DeBoard.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So at this time, we'll ask our brass quartet in. I have the list in front of me. Sammy Antefeet, Imani Waters, Gabriel Cabello, Nelson Davila, and Jason Torres. Thank you, guys. You may be seated. Ms. Martinez?
Good evening. Inspiring all learners to reach their highest potential as responsible, productive citizens.
Thank you. Senora Reyes?
My name is Belinda Reyes, and I'm here to provide translation services. Mi nombre es Belinda Reyes y estoy aquí para proveer servicios de traducción.
So that brings us to comments from the board. Mr. Soto.
Yes, I just want to say thank you, Ricky. That was a very eloquent speech you gave at the beginning of the board meeting.
Eloquence pushing it, but
No, it was eloquent. It definitely is. And welcome everyone to a public school board meeting. I really enjoy, I think we all like it when a lot of people show up. It's that part of participation that you have with your local school district, and so we always encourage it. And lastly, I'd just like to mention that I miss my yellow shirt, and I just keep looking at the boy in the corner there and thinking about whether I can wear a shirt like that.
Yes, yes, you can.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes,
That's what
absolutely.
I needed your permission. I needed you to blame.
that's fine. I'll take it.
All right.
You good?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Soto. Mr. Stackard?
Nothing further to add other than nice job on the September 11th remembrance.
Thank you, Mr. Weisshire.
Yeah, likewise. Great job, Chairman. Appreciate your words and your sentiment, in my opinion, hit the nail right on the head. So well done, and thank you. And then I also just want to say good evening to Teresa Castillo, our newest elected school board member. It's good to see you here. Again, congratulations on your recent election. And this entire board and leadership team is looking forward to working with you here very soon. So good evening to you.
Been here all day.
I heard.
Yep. Been working hard all day. Yep, thank you. I have nothing else. I think I said too much already, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Pace.
Thank you, Chairman Booth. I am honored tonight to welcome the board's student representative. We have with us Peter Gouyer, a senior at Poinciana High School. Peter will be here for 3 board meetings. And at our last board meeting, we'll ask him to share a little bit about what he's learned and experienced, but he is welcome at any time to provide comments and suggestions from his peers, his colleagues. You are here to represent the students across the district, and we welcome you.
Yes, sir.
Welcome.
you can be second. Doesn't matter. Okay, that brings us to turn it over to Ms. Reyes and Ms. Martinez again for our proclamation of Hispanic Heritage Month and our photo contest awards, correct?
Indeed, yes. Well, thank you, board members, superintendent. Today, we want to share about National Hispanic Heritage Month, which is observed each year from September 15th to October 15th, when many Latin American countries celebrate their independence. Established in 1989, Hispanic Heritage Month is an opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate the diverse Hispanic cultures existing within our communities. At this time, Sean Plata and Isabel Arrizurrieta will present the proclamation of National Hispanic Heritage Month in English and in Español.
Gracias.
Hi. I've been kind of sick, but I'm going to keep going.
If you would, speak into the mic. Yes, sir. Thanks.
Whereas the Hispanic community has a long and important history of commitment to our nation's core values, and whereas numerous contributions of Hispanic Americans have helped shape our community and positively impacted our nation, and whereas we applaud the accomplishments of Hispanic Americans, and now, therefore, the School Board of Osceola County, Florida, proclaims the month of September 15th through October 15th, 2018 as National Hispanic Heritage Month.
You can
Okay.
you can move it. You can pull it down.
Is
There
it
you go.
okay?
Yep.
Considerando que la comunidad hispana tiene un largo e importante historial de compromiso con los valores fundamentales de nuestra nación, y considerando que las numerosas contribuciones de los hispanoamericanos han ayudado a moldear nuestra comunidad e impactado positivamente en nuestra nación, y considerando que nosotros aplaudimos los logros de los hispanoamericanos, y ahora, por lo tanto, la Junta Escolar del Condado Osceola, Florida, proclama desde el 15 de septiembre al 15 de octubre de 2018 como el Mes Nacional de la Herencia Hispana.
Muy bien.
Motion. How do I say that? I can't. Motion something or other. All right, sorry. Why don't you say it in Spanish and we'll
Segundo.
Segundo.
I'm here.
Todos que aprueban, di que sí.
Segundo.
Segundo, okay.
Board, I'll call for a vote now to proclaim this month as Hispanic Heritage Month in Osceola County. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor state aye.
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 You were approved. Give her my hand.
Just so you know, I was trying to get the Spanish translation for motion to approve, and it wasn't working out for me. It'd take more time for me to learn.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, translating is not like, what you really want to do is just state the meaning in a different language.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to make a comment about the students. That was a very good reading of the proclamation for both of you. And it is a beautiful proclamation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we always try to go from good to great each and every year. So this year, in celebration of Hispanic Heritage Month, the Multicultural Education Department sponsored a photo contest soliciting photographic entries that represent the contributions made to society and the economy by the Hispanic community in Osceola County. This contest was open to middle and high school students of all races and cultures. Our sponsor will present prizes for middle and high school categories as follows. So we have for the middle, third place, $50 gift card, second place, $75 gift card, and first place, $100 gift card. And the high school will each also have a first, second, and third place prize. I have to mention, Naira Elvira couldn't attend due to a conflicting event, but I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge all of the work that she put into this initiative to make this a reality. We thank Pam Haas for her artistic support, and we are grateful for our partner in education, Charis Marin, realtor at Audrey Vargas Realty, for the prize donations. At this time, I ask for our partner in education, Charis Marin, and our coordinator of Multicultural Education Department, Valerie Martinez, to join me in announcing the winners. So we are going to begin with our middle school students. Third place, representing Kissimmee Middle School, is Suleid Rivera. And the title of her photo is I Wear My Colors Proudly. Second place, representing Kissimmee Middle School, Alanis Rivera. And the title of her photo is Pilon.
You see the fingernail.
And our first place winner for middle school, representing Neptune Middle School, is Valeria Morillo. And the title is Woman in Publix. Flip it. Our high school students, third place winner, representing Harmony High School, Caroline Mann. And the title of her photo is Mi Casa Restaurant and Bakery. Our second place winner from Toho High School, Isabel Arizurieta, with the title Mexican Angel's Wings. And in first place, representing Toho High School, Sean Plata, with the title Beauty and Labor. We congratulate all of our winners for a great job, guys. Thank you so much.
So, right, this is for making mofongo. This is the pastelito. You know, what our Hispanic friends don't know is that with the old country Florida boys, we share a love for guavas as well. So I had a lot of guava pastries and guava jelly.
Slide in, everybody. Turn to the side.
Oh. Got it?
Good. Thank our parents for being here as well and supporting this great work, and our principals who were able to join us tonight. I know they're proud of the work that the students have done. So thank you.
I'm trying. Help me out. Very good. Congratulations. Thank you, guys.
Great job.
So we are open for public comment at this time. So if you are here, and actually this would be a good time if for those of you who don't want to stay for the whole meeting, which is probably you guys. I would take this opportunity to families and students if you wanted to move. This would be a good time where you wouldn't be disrupting anyone.
Thank you. Yeah. Great job. Congratulations.
So while the folks are moving out of the room, we would like to tell you that public comment is open to anyone from the public. So if you would like to fill out one of these yellow sheets, if you haven't done so, that's okay. They're still on the back table there. If you would fill one out, bring it up here to our board assistant, Ms. Tanya Culver. I have 5 so far, but certainly we'll welcome any more that will wish to speak. Oh, you're good. You're good. Don't worry. So our first speaker tonight is Ms. April Jackson.
April Jackson, 722 Mabott Street, Kissimmee, Florida, President of Osceola County Education Association. What I wanted to address the board this evening on are the aggressive students that we currently have in our schools. The teachers, the administrators, the resource teachers at the district are all doing their best to help us. But as I'm sure Mr. DeBoard can tell you, we have too many teachers that are on workman's comp because of physically aggressive students. And we're not just talking students in the EBD classrooms or the ASD students. You would be amazed at how many kindergartners come into school and are being physically aggressive to their teachers. And my concern is that we're training our EBD teachers and our ASD teachers in the CPI techniques to more or less protect the student and the staff. But a lot of the regular education teachers don't have the same opportunity. And they're having more and more injuries every year. I had a phone call today from an EBD teacher who's new to the district, and her parents are both new to the district, and they've not yet been trained in CPI. They're scheduled 3 weeks out. So what I'd like to suggest is when we hire staff, new teachers coming into the district, before they start in the district, that we give them the opportunity to take their CPI training. There's less of a chance for the students to be injured and the staff to be injured if they're all trained in the process. It doesn't always work, but it's a good way to help the children to avoid getting injured. And we need to start doing this sooner for them. This girl on the phone today cried for 45 minutes. She's been attacked 6 times in her classroom today. The one was an hour and a half long.
Who was, I'm sorry to interrupt you, you get your time. Repeat that again, you say the teacher was attacked?
Attacked 6 times today.
What grade level is it again?
I'm not going to share that information because it would be breaking confidentiality for student levels, but she's an EBD classroom where you expect the more aggressive behaviors.
Okay, go ahead and explain what EBD is.
Emotionally, behaviorally disabled, is that what the D's for? Disorder.
Disorder, all right.
And the same thing is for the ASD students.
ASD?
Are the autistic children.
Okay.
We understand when you go into the classroom the type of situation you're going into, but she's not been trained yet in CPI. She's had CPI training from other districts, but not here.
What is CPI training, Ms. April Jackson? What is?
I don't know what the initials stand for, but it's the training that is used for, thank you, crisis prevention, intervention. And it does work, but I would just like to consider that we train them sooner. I know the schedule's really tight and they're getting everybody trained as quickly as possible, but many of these teachers are willing to come in the summer to take the training, not even be paid a stipend because they're not district employees yet, just so they can be trained and ready to go from the first day of school. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Pace and Mr. Kruppenbacher have
Chairman Booth, if I would just suggest, Ms. Overton is here in the room, and she would be happy to walk out with you, April, to make sure that we're aware of where those situations are, so that we can respond appropriately tomorrow.
Okay, and Mr. Kruppenbacher?
Dr. Pace said exactly what I
Okay, great.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. The board, not
So, okay, well, maybe you can answer these questions, Dr. Pace. So, do we have these EBD, ASD classrooms, are they like one per elementary school? Is that how this works out?
Some of them are at each elementary school. Some of them are more geographically placed because you have fewer students and we transport them to specific schools. But we are providing training and support, and as I said, each situation is slightly unique and different. So I'm going to need to have staff follow up with Ms. Jackson on these particular individuals to see what we need to do immediately to intervene.
And so this CPI training that's provided by the district?
Yes.
All right. And if I'm to understand, well, Ms. Jackson left, but if I was to understand her correctly, she's not satisfied that we're not providing this training fast enough? Is that what the?
She is suggesting that we try to do more of it in the summer, and we'll certainly look at our schedule. We already provide some, but as you know, we didn't have all of our teachers in place at the beginning of the school year, and that's somewhat of a challenge. But we'll assess the situation first thing tomorrow.
And lastly, besides this training, how long does it take?
3 days. It's a 3-day training.
It's a 3-day training, okay.
The initial training, and then there's a 1-day update required annually.
All right. Okay, thank you for that information.
Yes, sir.
That's all I have.
Dr. Pace knows my thoughts on the subject. I'm not going to go into any detail, but we did, I've worked with her personally on a teacher here recently with these same situations, and I know that these are going to continue to come up throughout the district. So I thank you, Dr. Pace, for working hard on those. Okay, Miss April Isaacs. Miss Tanya. So please, Ms. Isaacs, you know the drill. State your name and address for the record, please.
I do.
And you have
Good
3
evening.
minutes.
Good evening. April Isaacs, 1911 Kings Point Boulevard, Kissimmee, Florida, 34744. In light of the recent salary negotiations that have been closed, I know it's very popular to say teachers didn't get what they want, or maybe teachers don't deserve what they get. I'm pretty much middle of the roader, as you well know. But I do know, and I want to say this to you, that every teacher, when they become teachers, understands that there's going to be extra work. We're going to take work home. We're going to do plans on the weekends. Good teachers do those things. I was reading an article in Money Magazine yesterday about what teachers want everyone to know, and it struck me that many people don't understand the little things that teachers do daily. So in light of less money, perhaps I'd like to offer a solution of less paperwork. Things that you don't or may not know that teachers actually do on a daily basis. We look at PLC data, create our own assignments together in our PLCs, create universal tests, both summative and formative. That sounds like an easy thing, but with 4 or 5 people in a room all passionate about what they want on that test and how that standard reads, it can be a negotiation like I'm sure many of you have been through already. Also, we are our classroom cleaners. It's nice that we have custodians and they do a wonderful job, but they can't hit all of our desks with Lysol during the flu season. In fact, we can't always get the handrails clean. So teachers take money out of their pockets to keep their classrooms clean. We sometimes provide supplies for kids who don't have things, because no one should be embarrassed about not having a pencil or a sheet of paper. But there are even larger things that we do paperwork-wise that I'm not sure everybody understands. As a high school teacher, I teach my students how not only to write a recommendation, but I write recommendations for them. Last year I averaged 21. All 21 students deserved my kind words. They were hard workers. But people don't take that into consideration, that an excellent recommendation isn't something that's dolled out just in 5 minutes. It's not something that you just recreate from a template, not if you're a good teacher. Applications. Students don't understand applications today. In fact, they may be convoluted even more so because they're on the computer. A lot of our students don't have computers, and a lot of our students are intimidated by those applications. Resumes. Again, I speak only from the high school perspective, but I do know my brothers and sisters have lots of things they do as well, and it takes a nation to actually teach children how to actually write the letters, to compose the words, to put together the resumes.
Ms. Isaacs, I'm not going to stop you completely, but your 3 minutes is up, so if
Thank you.
wrap it up.
Scholarship applications, planning for summer school, providing study times outside of school when we're paid, as well as proofreading schedules and proofreading papers. Plus, if you think about it, fundraising, accounting, everything that people don't think about. And I leave you with this last thought. We also are there for the students when they fail, and we get their tears, and we get their whole being. Good teachers do those things. They're there for that student. Good teachers stand like at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. and do what's right for the students. We ask you to please take a look at PLC paperwork, grades, and certain assignments, and anything else that you can take a look at and lighten the teacher's burden. I thank you.
Thank you. Ray Best and Charity Best. And I know it says, I've got a little note that you may need more than 3 minutes, and that's okay. And Mr. Best, if you would please state your name and address for the record. Are you a student?
Yeah.
We don't need yours.
Ray Best, 2965 Elbib Drive, St. Cloud, Florida. My daughter mentioned to me the other day, riding home from school, too many kids are in danger walking on 17th Street from Michigan Avenue to Vermont in St. Cloud. We've got a petition going, well, she's got a petition going on paper and online. We've got the sheriff's backing, we've got City of St. Cloud Police Chief backing, the fire department backing, the city clerk is backing us, and
My principal.
the principal is allowing her to use her lunchtime to distribute this, and Mr. LaRosa's office has backed us, and he's getting some of his peers to back us. What we're looking for is permission to say that the Osceola School District backs us in this petition, because the city council, they back us too, because they're trying to get grant money for these sidewalks and improvements on 17th Street in this stretch, because it's the only stretch of 17 that doesn't have sidewalks, and it's right in front of the high school. And high school, middle school, and Michigan Avenue elementary kids walk that to get to school. So we just need your guys' okay to say you support this, and if someone would write down a letterhead saying, yes, we support this backing, because like I said, city council's looking for grant money, and they said the more backing they can get from the community, the better it looks.
Mr. Best, we have to probably be careful with some of the language that we use for a lot of different reasons, but I drove that road every day to high school. Probably Dr. Pace did as well when she was in high school. I know the area well. It's my hometown. I've lived here my whole life. So let us work with Ms. Krumpenbacher and let this board maybe have a discussion on how to best go about this. We do have to be careful in what we say. My question to you was going to be, do you have the backing of the city council to fund it? Because that's really, because I'm all for getting a sidewalk on 17th Street, but you've got to have the money. They need the money. We don't have the money.
Exactly. That's the point we're trying to make. The city council backs us in this. We've already talked to them. Their problem is getting grant money to do this, so they need the community support behind them to show the people that they're applying to for grants to get the money to do this.
Board, I would be willing to say that we would support the initiative. Again, I just want to make clear and to get with Mr. Krumpenbacher on how exactly we word this and those type of things
That's
for a lot of
understandable.
different reasons. So certainly I would support it, Board, to saying that we support it, but I want to make sure we're doing it in the legal way that protects the district.
Totally understand.
And protects the kids as well, and the funding that they may receive to build a sidewalk.
Okay, thank you.
So I have Mr. Soto.
Yeah, my question just had to do,
Yes.
sir, before you leave. I noticed that you have the USS Iowa. Did you serve on that?
Yes, sir, I did. As a matter of fact, I lost 47 shipmates when the turret exploded in 1989.
That's right. I was serving during that same time. I was USN from 87 to 93. And I was just mentioning to Mr. Krumpenbacher about when he noticed the USS Iowa, and I'm like, wow, I remember that ship, that battleship, the last one before it was decommissioned. I think it was soon after
Yes,
that accident.
it's in San Pedro as a museum, as well as the other 3 battleships are all museums now too. And you've probably seen my truck drive around town. It's the tailgate is a wrap of the battleship.
I have seen that.
You have?
I have seen that in St. Cloud, yes.
So it's
Now I know not to
my
pull out in front
homage
of
to my fallen brothers. Now you gotta face. Now you can write tickets quicker, right? That's what I tell the police.
And I remember seeing it up close when it docked at 32nd Street I think that was like in the late 80s as well.
That was when they relit the Statue of Liberty.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, around that
Thank
time.
you for your service.
Thank you, that's
Are you
exactly.
good? You
Yeah,
good?
no,
I
thank
just
you.
think it might be a good idea if they leave a copy of the petition so we know exactly what it says. So,
Yep.
just leave one copy.
Yeah, just
so
one
we-
copy, and we'll, if you'll give it to this lovely lady right down here.
If I may add, the fire department, each of their stations, they've allowed us to leave copies there so they can sign it while they're off duty, so it doesn't cross the lines of what they're allowed to do. And same for St. Cloud Police Department. Chief Gauntlet was more than happy to take copies. So-
Sure, I'm sure he
I
will be.
applaud y'all, your efforts to take the bull by the horns and try and get something done. So thank you very much for that.
And you have how many signatures?
160 so
160 so far, and that was just
Good.
during lunch today.
Are you at St. Cloud Middle School?
St. Cloud High.
St. Cloud High School. Okay, you're a senior. I didn't think you were middle school.
Thank you.
Mr. White, no, I
Oh.
got one.
Stay up here, you might have
Yeah,
to answer. Let her
Mr.
answer
White,
some
sir?
questions.
Thank you, Chairman. I was patiently waiting.
You were third on the, you chimed in third.
I know, I got it. I know my turn. That's why I waited. I did want to make sure I first started off by saying thank you for your service. I think Mr. Soto did a very good job acknowledging the service that you have and also the role that you and others have played in the United States Navy. So thank you. But really, my comment was going to be twofold. One was thank you for caring and thank you for trying to step up to do the right thing for our community as a whole. It's great to see that in general, but it's always great to see it from a student as well that's willing to stand up and take a stand to try to make a positive difference in our community, which is what all of us here I know endeavor to do, but I believe what most of us, if not all of us in this room, endeavor to do. So congratulations. Our chairman said it very well about making sure how we go about using the name of the school board for support. But, I can't speak for anybody, but obviously every single person in this room, I would imagine, say, of course, we want to do everything we can to ensure that there's safety for all of our students, really all of our residents, as they traverse whatever area it may be in our community. So thank you for taking the lead on this. We will look at the language in that. And we also want to be very mindful because we may, and I'll speak for myself, I may want to see that sidewalk in place, but I also understand there's another government agency that's in charge of that and has a jurisdiction of that. And so we all try to make sure that we work as partners in how it is that we go about accomplishing things for our community. So conceptually, of course, I'd love to see it. I want to see all of our students being safe and all of our community members, but we'll look at it from that perspective. I just didn't want you to leave without you hearing my viewpoint.
Yeah, and we understand that there's going to be problems with moving the utilities and things like that. And if I may add, we already know that south of the high school in the field that used to be the airstrip, if anybody remembers that far back, but from Michigan to Missouri down to Nolte, they're planning on putting however many hundreds of houses back there. That's going to be more students and more cars having to get down that way.
I think also on 17th Street, if I remember right, I may be wrong on this, I believe that's one of the streets in town where the property line goes all the way to the street.
Yes, it is.
That has been, Mr. Best, I believe, over the years, because I remember, I was in high school there in the 90s, I remember talking about it then, and I think that's always been the biggest issue is and actually we have a former principal of St. Cloud High School here, and when he gets up here, he might can comment on it, but, because he's coming up in just a minute. But I think that has been an issue that the property owners and everybody, it's just a really big undertaking. Certainly, as Mr. Weisser said, we want all our students to be safe. So thank you for all your hard work. We do appreciate it. It doesn't go unnoticed, and this is the right way to go about it. I tell young people all the time, commenting on Facebook isn't going to get you anywhere. Getting out on the ground, doing the work, and coming to council meetings, school board meetings, and talking to your chief of police and your the fire chief, that's going to get things done. So congratulations, and thank you for doing it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up we have Mr. Ken Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the school board. Superintendent Pace, nice to be here with you tonight. It's come to my attention that the Osceola High School football field, the stadium, the football field, might be named after Henry Ramsey. And I wanted, if that indeed is going to happen, I wanted to come this evening and speak in behalf of that, in favor of doing that. I knew Hank starting in 1965 when I came to Osceola County. I worked with Mr. Ramsey for some 13 years at Osceola High School. As a matter of fact, I think he probably spent, with maybe a few years, George, up in Columbia County at Lake City, I think he spent his entire professional career in Osceola County at Osceola High School, teaching and coaching. I'll let George Sullivan speak to the coaching part of it. But I'm here tonight to tell you that Hank Ramsey, Henry Ramsey, Mr. Ramsey, was one of the finest teachers, one of the finest men that I think that I have ever known. I remember one time I was right out of college, came to Osceola High School, and I remember asking Mr. Ramsey if he had any advice for a greenhorn. And half jokingly, he said, "You need to love them hard and beat them hard." Now, I don't know a whole lot about the beat 'em part of it, but I can tell you this. I saw the love 'em part of it every single day. There isn't a teacher that I knew that loved his kids, that worked harder to help them be a success than Henry Ramsey. Just one little note about that. I know for a fact that he would work during Christmas vacation with college students who came home for break. He would meet them at Osceola High School and help them with their college algebra or whatever math subject they were having difficulty with while they were off at college. Now, I don't know a whole lot of people that would have done that. Take their break from school, their break, their vacation, so to speak, and meet with former students and help them with their classes that they were having trouble with in college. But that was the kind of man that Henry Ramsey was. I considered him more than a colleague. He and I, as I said, we worked together for some 13 years at Osceola High School. But Henry Ramsey was a friend, and not just to me, but to anyone that he came in contact with. But more especially the students that I saw him work with. As a matter of fact, my wife was one of his students. And there are probably other people I know. Mr. Thacker was probably one of Hank Ramsey's students, probably one of his football players and coach, I imagine. I don't think that you would find a better person to honor than you will Hank Ramsey, and naming the Osceola football field after him. The stadium, however you would do it, would be fine with me. He probably would not want you to do it. Yeah, I mean, if he were alive and could speak on it, he'd probably say, no, but that's the kind of man he was. Very humble individual, hardworking, dedicated, professional, caring, loving individual. And I certainly would add my 2 cents worth that if you're going to do it, that you couldn't find a better person than Hank Ramsey. He's just unbelievable individual. So Dana told me that I had 3 minutes, and I'm sure.
We gave you 5. But that's
You
okay.
gave me 5? Well, thank you.
I was going to say, Commissioner, you didn't give us your 2 cents worth. That was at least 4 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. But we appreciate it. We
Yes,
do.
well, you couldn't ask for a better person, dude. I'll tell you this: there's nothing in his character, nothing in his professional life that would bring any kind of shame or derision on Osceola County School District. He was a super individual. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Coach Sullivan, Mr. Sullivan, as long as you come up here and don't tell any stories about when I was a boy. And
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, thank you.
George Sullivan, 716 Adrian Park Circle, Kissimmee, Florida, 34744. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is wonderful to be back here. Oh, I forgot to throw in Osceola educator, retired. You know, there's a few people you meet in your life that make the kind of impact that Henry Ramsey did on the boys that played for him, the students he had. You'll have to excuse me, I get a little emotional when I start thinking of him. He was like another father. And give me just a second here. I played junior varsity football for him in the old junior high school system here. Went on, played high school ball. He was still coaching JV. Went off and played at Florida. Came back, and guess who was still coaching there? And I had the opportunity to coach and work with him for a year. When I come out of college, I was kind of full of myself. You know, I was a big stud coming off of a heck of a football team program up there. And I was a little rough around the edges, so to speak. Well, he calmed me down because all he had to do was either look at me or give me that look he had. And I knew I was going too far. And he helped me through that first year survive as a beginning teacher and as a beginning coach. And I owe my whole professional career basically to him. That's why I'm here tonight. And I tell you what, folks, if you got on social media and you sent out the message that you're planning on naming Osceola High School football field after Mr. Ramsey, I can guarantee you will get nothing but tons of support from anybody and everybody that knew the gentleman. So I hope this opens a conversation to meet that end. I'm going to leave it with y'all to discuss, but I'm recommending as strongly as I know how that you do that. So with that, I'm going to leave you, and y'all have a great evening.
Thank you, Coach. Yeah, and thank you for keeping it on Coach Ramsey and not Little Ricky. So I appreciate that.
We appreciate that.
And just so you don't know, my dad and Coach Sullivan not only coached together but got their master's degree together at UCF, right? To become administrators in Osceola County. So anyway, Mr. Thacker. Yeah. Mr. Thacker.
I just, it's probably not appropriate to go into it now. Maybe I'll put it on the agenda modifications under, but I would have this discussion with the board and see what you think, because I've had a ton of people in the community have come to me about this. I don't know if it's on, I'm not on social media, so I don't know if it is or is not. I've had a ton of phone calls in the last 2 weeks on this question of naming the field after him. I think St. Cloud's is named after Tom Ganarelli, who was a man of a similar vein to Coach Ramsey. And I want to thank you two for coming. I'll tell you, I'm getting old enough now, there's not that many people left I call Mr. and Mrs., but Coach Ramsey, when he passed away, was one I never called anything but Coach Ramsey. And I was born across the street from him and grew up in his household. And Mr. Smith will always be Mr. Smith, too. So thank you all very much for coming.
Thank you.
I think if it's okay with the board, I'd like to discuss this further.
We can add that at the end when we get to that point. Thank you. You know, there was, growing up in this community, there was just several people that you know, they say, the larger than life figures, that when you're a kid walking around, when you see these men, and Coach Ramsey was one of those men. So, and I've been contacted by some, you know, our former Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Florida contacted me about this as well, who now lives in North Florida. So, Mr. Charlie Bronson. So, you know, I think we're headed down that path. So we'll add it to the agenda later, I guess. Mr. Thacker will. And if that's it, we've got to recess. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
There you go. We're not to that point, though, yet. We do now have to recess our board meeting. If you don't have to stay and listen to the rest of this if you don't want. We do have to recess now for a public hearing to adopt our final budget. So is that Ms. Graper?
It is.
So we're going to recess our meeting now, and then we'll reconvene after we have voted to adopt our final budget. Yes, I have it.
Good evening. Members of the board, Superintendent Pace, this is the public hearing on the proposed millage rates and the annual budget for fiscal year 2018-19. Tonight's public hearing on the tentative budget will include remarks regarding the proposed millage and budget. There will be an opportunity for public and board member comments. We will request that you adopt a resolution setting the proposed total millage levy to support the 2018-19 annual budget. And we will also request that you adopt resolutions approving the 2018-19 annual budget as presented. We'll start with some definitions. So what is TRIM? The Truth in Millage or TRIM legislation was enacted in 1980, and the requirements are detailed under Section 200.065 of Florida statutes. The statute dictates the form, size, and placement of budget advertisements, as well as the order of business during the budget hearings. TRIM requires 2 public hearings for open discussion of the millage rates and the proposed budgets of all taxing authorities. The first public hearing was held on July 31st, and tonight is your second. So what is a mill? A property tax levy of $1 per $1,000 of taxable property value. So you can see that 1 mill equals 0.001, and $100,000 times 0.001 would levy $100. The Florida Education Finance Program, or FEFP, is the mechanism by which state and local funds are allocated to Florida school districts. The Florida legislature sets the required local effort millage and the prior period funding adjustment millage rates that must be levied by the school board. The school board must levy the required local effort millage and prior period funding adjustment millage in order to receive any state funding under the Florida Education Finance Program. The total proposed millage related to school funding for the 18-19 school year is 6.411 mills. This millage will generate revenue for the general operating and capital outlay funds. As previously mentioned, the millage rates are determined by the Florida legislature, and this is the maximum millage that the school board is allowed to levy without a specific voter-approved referendum. The district must levy the required local effort and prior period funding adjustment to receive approximately $288.8 million in state FEFP funding. In addition, we must levy the full basic discretionary millage to receive $16.4 million in compression funding from the state. The proposed total millage rate related to school funding of 6.411 mills represents a decrease of 0.338 mills when compared to the previous year. The reduction in the RLE from 4.501 to 4.161 mills equates to a loss in funding of $8.9 million when applied to the current tax roll. As required by TRIM, we must compare the proposed millage rate to the rollback rate. The rollback rate is the millage rate that would generate the same amount of revenue as last year if applied to the current year's adjusted taxable value. Under TRIM, the rollback rate is the basis for determining if tax rates have increased or decreased. So this slide compares the proposed millage rates to the rollback rates. The current state law rollback rate is 4.197 mils. The current proposed state law millage rate for 2018-19 is 4.163 mils. The proposed rate is 0.81% less than the rollback rate. The rollback rate for the total millage is 6.2932. The proposed total millage rate is 6.411. The proposed total rate is 1.87% greater than the rollback rate. The Osceola County tax levy will increase by $9.9 million for school-related taxes in the 2018-19 year as compared to the prior year. While the millage rate decreased, the tax roll is up 11.5% over the prior year. Since the legislature implemented a rollback of the required local effort millage rate in the 2016-17 fiscal year, the district has lost $41.7 million in property tax levies. So how are property taxes calculated? The taxable value of a homeowner's property equals the assessed value as determined by the Osceola County Property Appraiser's Office, less the $25,000 homestead exemption where applicable. The homestead exemption is an amount that is exempt from ad valorem taxes. The amount is established by law for properties used as the owner's primary residence and is normally $25,000. The portion of property tax related to school funding equals the taxable value divided by 1,000 times the school district millage rate. Therefore, in this example, a homeowner with an assessed value of $125,000 with the homestead exemption will pay $641.10 of school-related ad valorem property tax to Osceola County. So how will this impact taxpayers in our county? This slide illustrates the changes in school-related property taxes for an Osceola County homeowner over the last several years. In this example, a home valued at $205,000 in 2014 would have generated roughly $1,327.50 in school-related property tax. If the owner qualified for Save Our Homes, by the 18-19 school year, the estimated assessed value of that same home would be approximately $217,000. Based on that valuation, the estimated school-related property tax would be $1,230.40. This is a decrease of $34.77 from the prior year and a 4-year cumulative decrease of $97.10. So now let's change focus from taxes to the budget you'll be adopting tonight. The key items in the budget have been shared with you in previous workshops and presentations. Based on current FTE projections, FEFP and local tax revenues for the 2018-19 budget are $31.6 million greater than the 17-18 year. Funding per student will increase by $138 or 1.97% over the prior year. It's important to note that most of the $138 increase is in restricted sources. As we've discussed, the change to the unrestricted base student allocation was 47 cents per student. This slide shows our long-range forecast. The district closed the 2018-19 school year with a surplus in the general fund as planned. The proposed budget presented tonight includes another small surplus for 2018-19. Based on state funding projections, we are anticipating a minimal increase in per-student funding the following year. Careful monitoring of budgetary resources will remain a top priority to ensure sustainability through any future funding shortfalls. So this slide shows the district's total budget in summary form. As you know, the general fund is the main fund from which most operating expenditures are paid. In addition, tonight you will approve budgets for the debt service fund, which is used to pay for the outstanding bonds of the district, the capital projects fund, which accounts for major construction and renovation projects, special revenue fund, which consists of food service and federal grants, and the Internal Service Fund, which accounts for the district's health insurance and property casualty insurance programs. The total tentative budget is $1,187,269,839. This slide represents the annual budget at the level of detail you will be adopting tonight. This is the same level of detail at which you approve budget amendments throughout the year. Mr. Chairman, this is the time for any public comment. After public comment, the floor will be open for board member discussion and comments.
Do we have anyone from the public that is here to comment on the budget specifically? Okay, seeing none. Ms. Graber?
Okay. We recommend that the board adopt Resolution 19-004, setting the required local effort, prior period funding adjustment, discretionary operating, and capital outlay millage rates for 2018-19 as follows. Required local effort, 4.161 mils. Prior period funding adjustment, 0.002 mils. Discretionary operating, 0.748 mils. And capital outlay, 1.5 mils, for a total of 6.411 mils. The total millage rate to be levied exceeds the rollback rate by 1.87%. Mr. Chairman, this resolution requires a roll call vote.
Ms. Colbert?
Mr. Soto?
Aye.
Mr. Weissire?
Aye.
Mr. Thacker?
Aye.
Mr. Booth?
Aye.
Okay. We recommend that the board adopt Resolution 19-005, adopting the tentative budget in the amount of $1,187,269,839. This resolution also requires a roll call vote.
Mr. Soto?
Aye.
Mr. Weissire?
Aye.
Mr. Thacker?
Aye.
Mr. Booth?
Aye.
At this time, I would like to thank staff for all of their hard work. This is a major collaborative effort that would not be possible without input from every school and department. This concludes the public hearing to adopt the 2018-19 proposed millage rates and annual budget.
You got it? Nice job, Ms. Graber.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Graber and your whole team.
You gonna give Jose credit?
Thank you, Jose.
So we will adjourn the public hearing to adopt our final millage and budget and reconvene our regular meeting at this time. But before we do that, I just want to recognize that we do have our Kissimmee Chamber President, Mr. John Newstreet. Thank you for being here tonight, Mr. Newstreet. So, board, I will call for any agenda modifications at this time. Mr. Soto.
I have none.
Okay, Mr. Thacker.
I'm just going to have some comments in the board member comments at the end on the.
Did you want to have new business on the, or you just wanted to add comments?
I can add well, let's put under new business.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we will put that under new business, correct? All right. All right. Mr. Weissher?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Pace?
No, sir.
Okay. Board will ask now for a vote on the agenda, including all the consent items.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Soto, a second by Mr. Thacker. Board, is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 4-0. So, Board, that brings us to our informational items. And we have Mr. DeBoard here for item 13.01 and 13.02, which is information on the Center for Employee Health and the Health and Life Insurance Trust Fund.
Yes, sir.
Mr. DeBoard.
Thank you. In your packet is the pieces that you see each month. This is for the month of July 2018. The center update, you'll see that we had 1,982 total medical visits for the month. You'll see there also that the no-shows was down even further down to 106, which is the lowest it's been so far, which is really good news. We've got costs that the employees that have used the center have avoided we're at $1.75 million at this point. So that's very positive for our employees. The other piece is the iPad survey. The goal of the Florida hospital staff is to have at each level be at the top box be at 90%. We've got courtesy listed at 92.3%, listening to the patient 92.05, rating of the care is 91.6, recommend the Center for Employee Health at 89.62, and the wait time at 87.39, with a total of 90.61 for the month of July. So still challenged by appointment times, but the people that are being seen are pleased with the services that they are receiving. Just a brief update as well on the e-care that was initiated back in April. Since the start of that program, we've had 244 employees sign up under that system. June and July utilization took kind of a dip. We had been seeing in around 20, a little over 20 a month. In June we saw 12, and in July we saw only 8. But then during the month of August we saw 22 patients, or they were received phone calls from 22 patients during the month of August. Any questions about any of that?
Board?
Then the other piece is the monthly Gallagher expenditure report. Unfortunately, I don't have any good news. We're continuing to see high claims costs. The claims cost exceeding the revenue that's generated by $1.178 million for the month of July. Unfortunately, that is something that is not uncommon. I think we've shared that with you before. Summer months, we do tend to see a spike in the utilization and the costs of the claims going up. But this would be the month of July, and probably still seeing for the month of August. We'll continue to see some of those high costs while they're out having some of those services done while they're not in school. So that's usually what we see, like I said, over the summertime, the summer months. Anything else? That's it.
Board, any questions for Mr. DeBoer? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, Board. Item 13.03 is the monthly Business Advisory Board meeting minutes, and they are included in your packet. That brings us to item 14.
Move for approval of item 14.01.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Thacker, a second by Mr. Soto. I'll get that right. Board, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 4-0. Board item 15 under Business and Finance. What is your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Weiser, a second by Mr. Thacker. Board, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Seeing none, motion carries 4-0. Under the superintendent's recommendation, would you like to say anything about the strategic plan?
As you know, we worked through the summer to gather your input as well as the input of stakeholders, as well as to review data to look at your 3 of our strategic plan. The goals remain the same. The strategies remain the same. We have updated activities based on your direction and the data and our desire to achieve continuous improvement in our outcomes.
Well, good. And I've appreciated your work, your staff's work on the strategic plan. I love how we have the 3-year plan now rolling forward each time and updating it each time. So thank you to all of you for doing that, because I think we've got a great plan.
I'll move for approval of that plan, 16.01.
There you go. All right.
Second.
Mr. Thacker with a motion, second by Mr. Weissayer. Board, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries 4-0. That brings us to our legal issues. I don't think we have to. I know we have lots of legal issues, but do you have any comments tonight on anything? No executive sessions or anything?
No comments.
All right.
No comment or no comment?
No comment, comments, requests for anything.
Dr. Pace?
Just briefly, sir, I sent an email to all of you this afternoon as this week's board update. Typically, those go out on Fridays, but because I'll be at the FAD conference for the next couple of days, I wanted to get you some additional information. I would encourage you, when you have a chance, to look at the attachments. I included the most recent information from our advisor, Jim Hamilton, about the long-range financial outlook. Once again, he's a little pessimistic, but it tends to be very, very accurate in that we don't anticipate a lot of additional dollars for K-12
When has
education.
anybody been? When was the last time anybody was optimistic about the additional dollars in K-12?
In addition, we have proposed changes to our procedures for admissions to our extracurricular events that would go into effect primarily, obviously, this season for athletics, but also other extracurricular events, restricting the size of bags, but also being reasonable in that, obviously, diaper bags, medical items, those types of things would be necessary, but making it clear, and we'd be communicating to our public that items are subject to search when they enter one of our school district events or facilities. And again, I would just ask for your review of that. It is our intention to roll that out as a part of our athletic handbook, a part of our procedures next week for implementation starting Friday, September the 21st. But I wanted to give you a chance to review it first.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Thacker?
I actually meant to bring this up earlier in the board comments, and I forgot, but I know I am going to a Florida School Board Association meeting. I think you're going, right?
Do I have to?
Yeah. No, you do have to go.
I'll be there.
Mr. Weissayer and I, just the board knows, we'll be at a meeting the last 2 days of the week with the
This week?
Yeah, with the executive board will be there, and the full board on legislative issues. There's a big focus on this, and so Jim Hamilton's comments and notes were, I have not looked at it yet, but that made me think about this, and looking at a legislative platform for the FSBA that maybe we can get some legs and get us there without getting so watered down or mismatched it doesn't do anything for us.
Thank you, Mr. Thacker.
I'm done.
Just a quick comment on that. We are also, Osceola, we're actually hosting next week the Florida School Board Association legislative refinement process as well here in our county. So for the first time, it was going to happen, I think, up in an area near the swamp or something like that. And I was like, there's no way I'm going there. So, but we are going to be hosting it here at Osceola, just so that you guys are aware. I know you would know that, and you'll be a part of it, but the other guys may not have been aware.
Perks of being the elect, huh?
No, sir.
Yeah.
No, sir.
I like it, Osceola County. All right, I don't have any unfinished business here, so that brings us to our new business, which is the naming of the Osceola High School field.
And board, I just want to get y'all's opinion or what you think on a possibility of moving forward this or not moving forward this. This has come to my attention before tonight from a bunch of different people who have talked about doing something to honor Coach Ramsey, who coached and taught at the school for a little over 30 plus years, I believe. Like I say, I happened to be born across the street from him, so I grew up with him for the first 10 years or so of my life, and then they remained family friends. But people of all walks of life that have talked to me and people that I've known have huge, huge respect for Coach Ramsey. And it's some of those he coached, some of them he taught math. He taught people a lot about math who absolutely hated math, but nobody disliked going to his class. And I've not had one person mention one bad thing to me really ever about Coach Ramsey. And I think he's the epitome of what we think coaches are and what we think teachers are. And he was in the school district in some very tough times. He was in the school district with some very tough employment times. And he and his wife both taught their whole careers in this district. So I'll tell you what I'd like to do. I'd like to see us go down this path. I'd like to ask Dr. Pace to meet with probably, I guess, the principal and athletic director, football coach, and figure out what we need to do and then if we can do this, come back at the next meeting with a recommendation on the agenda. I don't know what the board thinks or
The
doesn't.
next meeting is next week, but I think we can get it done. Don't you, Dr. Pace?
If that's the board's consensus, we absolutely can get it done.
I'm all for it, but I'd certainly like to hear from Mr. Soto and Mr. Weissauer as well. And Mr. Weissauer has his light on, so.
Sure. So, yeah, I'm in favor as well. Ironically, Pam and I were at Fat Boys in Kissimmee yesterday, sitting at his booth, and we were talking about him actually. But I haven't had any conversations with anybody about the field, so it was ironic to me that it came up tonight after Pam and I literally at lunch yesterday sat and had conversations about both of them actually, and the work at Beaumont and OHS. My question really is about process. I don't remember off the top what our school board rules are regarding this.
You have a school board policy on naming
Right.
a school. Then you have one that says, there's a paragraph that says a principal can recommend a name of a building, a field, et cetera. That does not preclude the board from its unilateral authority to make that decision.
Sure. Thank you. What has so there's no issue here, just so everybody knows. I'm just asking questions to understand what has traditionally happened, or do we know, like with the naming of the St. Cloud Field?
That's the only one that has a name, obviously. I don't think the other high schools have had, they haven't been here long enough to have somebody like a Coach Gannerelli, a Coach Ramsey.
We actually have several other athletic facilities that have names. For example, the gym at Gateway High School is named after John Ramirez, who was a very popular teacher and coach there. The gym at Poinciana is named after Michael Brizendine, who was the principal when the school was built. And the gym at Harmony High School is named after Grover Buddy Butler. We dedicated it to him last year.
About the football field.
Right. So football fields have not had that same long-standing tradition. But I think we can go about it two ways, because Dr. Campbell has engaged her steering committee in discussions. And while I think they may be taking an official vote like tomorrow, or maybe even have been today, the discussion had been very favorable to moving something like this forward. So I'm happy to follow up with Dr. Campbell tomorrow and get staff to prepare a recommendation from the principal to the board for your next meeting. It will have to be a blue sheet item because the agenda was posted for next week, but we can get that done. I have absolute confidence.
Real quick, so first of all, on this particular item, I'm absolutely in favor of it. I think it's a great opportunity, and I think Coach Ramsey is someone who's impacted a number of us that we know and we recognize, and as Commissioner Smith said, he really is the epitome of what we would look for in these type of instances. My bigger question or comment really centers around just making sure that we really do have a clear process, because my concern with any of these type of things always is that they start to snowball, and that next thing you know, we're getting requests all the time for all types of naming initiatives and all that. So I know we have the standing rules that deal with that. I read those. I think sometime in the last couple of months.
There's actually a recommendation I'm going to give you on that rule with a lot of respect for this superintendent. It actually would let the principal make a recommendation and the superintendent approve it. And it doesn't, I think this superintendent, I would never recommend that the superintendent approve the naming of anything without the board's confirmation of that name.
We need to get John Boyd on that going forward.
No, it predates Dr. Pace, but I think it's you want it very clear that if something's going to get named,
back to elected superintendent time,
that it ultimately will have the board's blessing.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to make sure it's really clear on process. This one is, for me personally, is a no-brainer, but there could be some holes in this that we want to shore up to make sure that it's done right, not just for us, but to represent our community with future boards, future superintendents down the road as well. So it's an opportunity to look at what we've done and how we define it.
And I guess my question would be, and again, I've known the Ramsey family my whole life, and one of Coach Ramsey's grandsons is one of my closest friends, and his wife, who lives in North Florida now, is one of my mother's closest friends. So I guess, so I've supported, obviously, but I guess my question would be, just like we have the Coach Gannerelli Field over at St. Cloud, and just like here, is it going to be the field and pulling out the stadium?
My recommendation was the field.
The field. So Mr. Thacker's recommending the field. I'm assuming that it's Coach Gannerelli Field at St. Cloud High School. So moving forward, just so everybody understands, there is possibility for stadium naming rights. It leaves naming stadium, those open, so we are naming the field. Okay. So I'm all in, obviously, but, so we'll have that added board on the next agenda. Is everybody good on that?
I'll just say that I think that when someone gets a bench named after him in Fat Boys, that pretty much seals the deal.
I want to be careful because there may be others of us that have benches and Fat Boys.
Provided that at least 3 years have passed and that a miracle was already, verified. We have all those things.
Nobody, how many other Catholics do we have in here besides you? Oh, excuse me, sorry, Frank. And Coach Ramsey was, but that's right.
That's right, see?
So you knew. So, board, as we close tonight, and Tanya, I'd like, no. Remind me again. Oh, yes, I would like to talk about, I don't need to talk about the listening tour, but I would like to talk about the Blue Ribbon Panel. Board, I did have some discussion and looked at some history about going forward, and Sarah, I'm glad you're still here. Having
She didn't have a choice.
She tried to leave.
She tried. I thought, maybe once the budget was, she was already down at Tarantino's or something. No, I guess, Board, I had some discussions with some community leaders and talked about, looking at our finances and we are all well versed in what our situation is, but actually pulling together some retired teachers, some retired principals possibly, some community leaders, maybe some community bankers and things like that, just to kind of go over it, kind of a second set of eyes, qualified eyes, and look at it and give us their opinions. And that was it. That was all.
I think that's fine.
And if you think this is a good idea, I would direct Dr. Pace to maybe start getting some names to get on that panel, and just kind of to maybe bring back not necessarily even recommendations, but just kind of their idea of where we're at, and maybe just kind of ideas about moving forward.
So, Chairman, I'm going to ask a question on this
Sure.
only because it's my only opportunity to talk to you about this. Just define for me what your intent is with that.
So to take a look at our budget going forward, to look at our finances going forward, to look at, we had a group of folks that came in. We didn't really do this when we went through the half penny deal, but I think they did do this when they went for the penny tax. And I'm not talking about going for a tax, but certainly.
Why are you concerned that I would have
let me pull this back this truck up.
Mr. New Street, you see that reaction?
Yeah. So what I am talking about, though, is similar to those committees that were put together back in, I can't remember the year that they put that on the ballot. Was it early 2000, late 1990s? I don't remember when they put the 1 penny.
Babies, I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, they put together this panel to kind of make some recommendations, look at things we could do in the county, look how the process could be on that. I guess my idea would be look at the budget, look at the state situation, look at the local situation, kind of put it all together and say, hey, here's some ideas. That's it. Here's some ideas about the budget. Why are you looking at me like that? That's it. To say, because look, we've got, we've got teachers coming in here. We get our department chairs coming in here. Everybody wants a piece, right, of the pie, and we have to balance. Of course, we like to put as much money as we can back in the classroom. That's obvious by our budget with our lowest administrative cost in the state and so forth. But I think another set of eyes, especially people in the financial industry, people who are retired principals, retired educators, just to bring forward some, not necessarily recommendations, but just some ideas, just to look at it.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. And so, Dr. Pace, from the comments and the head nods from the board, you would just kind of maybe put together an overview of what this committee might look like and some ideas of where are we getting the...
I will tell you, based on this, I'm going to call her and tell her a couple of people I think. I don't know how.
We had this I had a meeting with Dr. Pace, I guess it was last week, And we just briefly discussed this. This was actually an idea that just came about from talking to a few people in the community that say they'd like to, and not dissimilar from our business advisory board, but maybe go a step further and be a little more involved than that. And I think there's some business advisory board members that would certainly be good on the committee.
So conceptually, I'm okay. I do have a couple of points of hesitation, which I think you're noticing in my questions. But I guess what I would want to see then is a scope, and what the real purpose and intent is, and then what the process might look like when and if there is or are recommendations, if that is indeed what they're going to be called. And part of that would be making sure that whoever is willing to serve on this understands, and I know they do, and I know we would all immediately respond that, oh, no, they understand that we make the decisions and so on and so forth, but I want to be careful that there's a very clear understanding of what their role is, what their role isn't, who still holds the responsibility of overseeing, managing the budget of the school district. So I just would like to see a scope maybe written and some key intended outcomes.
Would we have one board member on this committee like we do on the audit committee, or not?
I don't necessarily. I would not volunteer myself to serve on this committee. I don't necessarily think it'd be against. I'm just talking about going forward, and specifically for next budget year. After the things we've been through over the past several months and over last year, especially in our bargaining with our teachers, to kind of put some ideas out there for us that maybe haven't come up at these meetings. Maybe have a team of folks that are like us that really care about education in Osceola County, to take a crack at it and just look at it.
Okay. And I'm good. I just want to make sure there's not some unintended consequences in how we go about it and how it is we put it together.
Me too.
Yeah. So I will cautiously, optimistically say, let's figure out what it is, maybe put some work behind what that might look like. I'm glad, and I want to talk to you specifically about it as well.
What I will do is I will follow up with each of you individually and kind of get your thoughts about what that might look like. I won't be able to do that between now and next Tuesday.
No, that's totally fine.
Okay,
you can do it by tomorrow.
Is Jay here tonight? Oh, that's
exactly. You caught it. That was it.
But I will be happy to put together a draft scope of work and some potential candidates in a timeline.
I want to say that I share in Mr. Weishire's instincts. There's more to what you're really sharing here, because it just sounds like one of those things where it's really nice. It's kind of like socialism. It's really nice in theory, but to make it work, it really goes against the human nature sometimes. And that's what happens sometimes when you have these sort of schemes.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, may I work with Dr. Pace on that? I lived through the unattended consequences.
And I know, ribbon panel. I already know some of the unintended
right, and I can give her some insights of, they can be very effective, but if you don't scope it properly, it can go really wrong for everybody.
Yep.
All right, so we'd like to know,
And board, if we don't get there, that's fine. I put that. I even forgot that I added it to the agenda. So thank you, Ms. Culver, for reminding me.
I would have rather talked about the listening tour, I think.
Well, I will say, and I wasn't going to bring it up, that I will, and this is something that we discussed in some of our strategic planning workshops. So I will be attending some schools and listening. Listening to some teachers, and we're setting that up with some of the principals right now in my district. And I would encourage you to possibly do that in your district. A slightly different format that we're going to try to do here. So
good.
We'll see if it works.
You want to put yourself in a hot chair like that?
I'm fine with that. I'm a big boy.
You want to be exposed?
Huh?
Ready for that?
Oh,
yeah.
Fine.
Before you close,
I was raised by two teachers. I'll be fine.
Before you close, I got
Well, and before you move on, what you're new on, then just quickly, Chairman, I do want to say thank you for bringing both items up. I applaud your efforts on the listening tour, and I agree with you, and it's this type of things that I think we should all be doing. And the fact that you're looking and thinking outside the box on even the Blue Ribbon Committee or whatever, whether or not I agree or don't, I still always appreciate the fact that we think big and we think outside the box.
Sure.
We're willing to bring ideas to the table, so I applaud you on both.
And I wasn't going to close yet because we have board member comments, and I was going to remind Ms. Tanya, if you would add a board and student member comments to this, to item number 21 from now on, because at this moment, I'd like to say your last name for me again.
My last name is Gouyer.
Gouyer, okay. So I'd like to ask Mr. Gouyer if he has anything that he'd like to share, some comments that he would like to share, and I apologize because maybe in the future I can allow you some time as well in the front of the meeting when there's some people here.
Mr. Chairman, actually, the purpose that I wanted to make sure that I had an opportunity was just to ask him a few questions, make it easier to.
Oh, okay. Well, then go ahead.
You know, I mean, obviously you could make your own comments, but this being your first, meeting, so what part did you find most interesting?
Well, the part I found most fascinating was how the teachers were able to freely speak about the concerns that they had.
Talk about the public comments part.
Yes.
Cool.
I didn't know that's how this board meeting worked, and when I saw that was very fascinating to me, and how you guys literally absorbed what she said and thought about it and conference on it. That's really something amazing.
And you know what? The public comment portion of these board meetings are actually very important. And that is where the public, and the reason that we have timers and things like that is because it can get really full with a lot of people wanting to make comments. But that is an opportunity for anyone in our community, well, anywhere, everywhere, that wants to, have a statement heard by us. So okay. So you saw the public comment.
Yes.
All right. So what did you think about the beginning of our meetings? We went through some rituals.
Yes.
And we went through some things.
Rituals that are very important to us as people, as Americans. I really thought that was special that you guys did that.
All right. And the music?
The music was. It was
We
beautiful.
don't always have it, but when we do, we don't always have it.
You guys don't always have it?
Not during the summer.
Right, it depends.
During the school year, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I actually like how you guys gave student band leaders the opportunity to do something like that.
Okay, all right. Board, more questions? I mean, I could go on, but
Did you have
to
any just comments that you wanted to make?
No, since it's my first meeting, it was just an honor to sit here and just listen to everybody's concerns.
Well, this is a program that we had in place. I know, and I don't know, maybe Mr. Weisser can comment on it further, but when I and myself and Mr. Thacker first came on this board, this is a program we had in place. We had a student representative, and then when he graduated, I guess, we just haven't had one, and we've had discussions over the past year or so about bringing this program back. So I'm excited about it. I'm glad you're here, and I appreciate you spending your evening with us. And actually, 7 o'clock is not bad.
It's not bad.
Because
You got two more chances for something to go off the rails.
We've been sitting here for till 9 or 10 o'clock before, if I don't remember. Mr. Thacker, Mr. Weisser?
Yeah, I actually just wanted to congratulate you for being here, because there are a lot of students that would want to have the opportunity, and as we do this kind of round robin across the county, it says a lot about you and who you are, and the fact that your principal would pick you and allow you to be the representative for your school to be here says a lot about you. So I want you to know we're proud of you as well, and we look forward to getting to know you a little bit better over the next couple of weeks, continue to support what you're doing at Poinciana High School, and then seeing the great future that you have ahead of you. The other thing is, know that you have, even though Mr. Wheeler's not here tonight, you have 5 board members who value you and care about you. And so if there's something that we can do as we get to work with you over the next couple of weeks, don't hesitate to grab us before or after a meeting and let us know what your thoughts or what your needs may be as well. What we do up here, of course, is an important part of the process, but just being able to talk one-on-one is also an important piece, and I know each one of us would gladly spend any time we could with you to help as well. So congratulations to you.
Yep. Go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
And I'm going to invite you, this is not a homework assignment.
Be careful.
That for our next meeting next week, that if you do have a topic, it doesn't have to be something that's covered, but something that you want to go ahead and discuss with us. It could be a comment, it could be an idea, it could be a philosophy of education, whatever it is, and we'll have a nice little discussion here at the end. As you see, most folks are gone, and we are a little bit more relaxed, and I like to hear what's in your head. Okay?
Yes, definitely.
So don't feel any pressure, okay? I know you're busy with a lot of things, but it could be just something simple. I think you just heard some ideas.
Yeah.
Just make sure you submit them to me in advance for screening and approval, and after that it'll be fine.
If you want to share the topic ahead of time, that's fair enough, okay? Just the topic.
If you want mind getting Ms. Culver's information and share that with her first, and we'll approve it and put it on the agenda.
If you want a tip or a hint, I put out a newsletter and maybe you can read it and maybe get some ideas.
I've got a clue or a hint. Don't read his newsletter.
Get some ideas from there.
All right, board, anything else? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir.
So now tomorrow you've got several things.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you, Senator.
See, they're a lot of fun.
Young man,
sometimes it's